The immortal John Hancock here, and today I'm going to be showing you some bad arcade ports. For many of us, we've all experienced at one point or another a game that we're anticipating to be great, and yet when we played it, it totally disappointed us. So in this video, I'm going to take and pick 5 arcade ports that I thought were underwhelming or not fun or just plain bad. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the video. Double Dragon is a classic beat-em-up game controlling Billy or Jimmy Lee. This two-player classic was ported to many classic consoles and computers. Available weapons include baseball bats, whips, throwing knives, and dynamite. In addition, rocks, oil drums, and boxes can be found in various places in the game. The game is divided into 4 missions, which consist of a city slum, factory, forest, and the gang's hideout. I played this game quite a bit growing up in the arcades, and it was an awesome experience. I used to go to the gold mine in Redding, California, where I played this game with friends. This is a good example of playing the arcade first did impact how I perceived home port. Some ports are too much of a stretch for hardware, and this is the case for Double Dragon on the Atari 2600. While backgrounds are not bad, the real issue here is the control. Your attacks include 4 moves: punch, elbow punch, kick, and jump kick, and each is executed by pressing the fire button plus a direction on the joystick. I found this too hard to pull off typically, and you end up getting beat up relentlessly by the enemies. You only have 3 lives and 0 continues. While there is another mode in which you can face off with a second player, it is not worth it due to the lousy controls. I played this game later on in my Atari collecting, but found this is not a port to revisit. An early 80s arcade success for Nintendo, in which you control Mario, also known as Jumpman, to save Lady, later named Pauline, from Donkey Kong. This classic platformer has you controlling Mario through 4 stages. The stages consist of ramp, conveyor belt, elevator, and rivet. I never was great at this timeless classic, though I appreciate it more now that I don't have to spend quarters. I typically would pursue other Nintendo classics in arcades such as Mario Brothers because I was able to last longer on a single quarter. As time has moved on, however, I now fully appreciate this amazing arcade game, a timeless classic. Like many other popular arcade games, there were many ports of Donkey Kong to classic computer and consoles, but many consider the Intellivision one of the worst. Like the Atari 2600 version, this version of Donkey Kong only features 2 of the 4 levels from the arcade game. Unlike the 2600 version, however, which has acceptable gameplay and graphics, this one looks and plays terrible. Mario looks like a Berenstain Bear, and I always thought that Donkey Kong looked more like a medieval executioner. Since then, homebrewers have created Donkey Kong Arcade, which is a much better version of Donkey Kong for the Intellivision, including all the stages from the classic arcade game. In 1982, Atari made a sequel to the arcade hit Centipede with more intense gameplay and a wider variety of insects than the original. You control the character Archer to defend his mushroom forest from the onslaught of gigantic insect monsters using his magic arrows. You must take out all the parts of the millipede as well as defeat waves of insects that include stag beetles, bees, spiders, inchworms, ladybugs, dragonflies, and mosquitoes. I always found this arcade sequel to be better than Centipede. It is intense, and it just sends wave after wave of bugs to get you. And I found myself playing this quite a bit on, actually of all things, the Atari 2600 version, which shares the intensity of the Atari Classic. In the mid-90s, there was a series of 2-pack classic arcade games released for the Game Boy. This is a terrible version of Millipede, mostly due to the speed of the game. It takes the intensity of the arcade hit and slows it down to a snail's crawl. After playing many rounds on the arcade as well as the Atari 2600, I was used to this game being intense. And this is like watching grass grow. It's slow. It is nothing that represents the frantic gameplay that the original offered. I found out about this game watching a strange disco-themed Nintendo commercial in the mid-90s. I did purchase this game for my aging Game Boy and was immediately disappointed. Yes, I purchased this when it came out. I was excited about experiencing Millipede, and boy was I disappointed. Avoid this. Golden Axe was released in 1989 as a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Control one of three characters, a dwarf, barbarian, or Amazon, to pursue and kill the evil Death Adder and his minions. Each character had a different magic ability and can use magic of various levels to defeat enemies on the screen. The dwarf uses lightning, the barbarian uses earth, and the Amazon uses fire. Potions can be gathered to raise the level of magic. The Amazon has the best magic and can raise it to level 6. While I did play this in the arcades, most of my experience with this game was on the decent Sega Genesis port of the game, which included extra levels and some additional features. I played this game quite a bit with my brother and friends, and I found this game to be one of the original games that I fell in love with of this genre of side-scrolling beat-em-ups. This was one of Sega's absolute best. Although I am a huge Sega Master System fan, I have to say that this port disappoints. The Sega Master System version of Golden Axe takes a hit in several departments. While the graphics and sound are decent, the game has been stripped of its two-player enjoyment. Also, you can only control the Barbarian, which in my opinion is the worst character, one that I typically don't choose. While you can choose the magic of the other characters at the start of the game, the real issue here is the control and frame rate. It does not move fluently whatsoever. The moves are harder to pull off and the whole game is stuck in slow motion. While it seemed like a good idea to offer an iconic arcade game to consoles, this one falls short in several departments. It does not have the extras of the Genesis version. It's a single player experience, and quite frankly, it's not that great. Avoid this port and play the Genesis version instead. Alter Beast is another Sega classic side-scrolling beat-em-up. The game takes place in ancient Greece, in which you are resurrected by Zeus to rescue his daughter Athena from the underworld ruler Neph. You punch, kick, and jump across 5 levels filled with minions and monsters. Collect spirit balls from certain two-headed wolves. You can increase your strength. Collect 3 and you can transform into various beasts which give you unique powers. Now, like many out there, I experienced this game mostly as a Genesis pack-in with my first Genesis I purchased with my own money. Though I did experience it in arcades in Anderson, California at a local pizza place. But, you know, this game is not perfect. It's fairly short, but it is an iconic Sega arcade game that many remember and have fond memories of playing. While we didn't get this port here in the States, the Famicom version takes away what made the arcade game fun and replaces it with some small additions. The voice is gone, the 2-player option is gone, as well as the transition scenes when your character turns into different beasts. The control in the game is pretty bad, along with hit detection. You press up to jump, making the game feel totally different to play. There is the addition of a few levels to lengthen the short arcade game. While the game is longer in length, the main enemies and character have been shrunken down to Smurf sizes. In the end, this game is just not that fun to play with touchy controls and dodgy hit detection. I didn't find out about this game until the early 2000s when I saw other people talking about this strange port that Japan got that we never received. In the end, I think there's many other versions of Alter Beast I'd rather play. So those are my picks for bad arcade ports. What are yours? Comment below, as I would love to hear from you what you think are bad arcade ports. There are several others known out there. I tried to pick ones that just weren't any fun to play. So I had a lot of fun doing this video, and I want everybody to be safe, hunker down, and I wish you nothing but health and safety during this time of uncertainty. Thank you for continuing to watch my channel. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. This is the Immortal John Hancock. You take care.